They want a $15 per hour minimum wage right now. And their protests have brought results. All these cities have voted to raise their minimum wage sharply. And now the Democrats want the entire country to follow suit.
We must raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour.
Of course we have to raise the minimum wage.
Of course? I'm so sick of their smug, ignorant pronouncements. The idea that a higher minimum wage will simply lift poor people's wages is an obvious myth, common sense. Because if it worked, we should have a $100 minimum. It's just common sense that if you raise the cost of workers, some of those workers will lose jobs or not get them in the first place. Erin Shannon understands that. She studies small business for a Washington think tank called the Washington Policy Center. Washington, the state, not D.C. And congratulations, you in Seattle got a $15 minimum wage.
Yes. Washington has been sort of ground zero of the 15 Now movement. We have 2 cities in the state with a $15 an hour minimum wage.
The Seattle City Council voted unanimously. It's not their money. And it's not $15 yet. It's $11 now. They upped it, and by 2017, it's $15. So what? Give people more.
Sure. Except for the unintended consequences of that. This is not free money that grows on the tree. This is money that you're taking from employers who would otherwise use that money to invest in their business, grow their business, create more jobs. Their cost of labor just increased 57%. And so with that comes some tough decisions. And those decisions are increase prices, reduce your labor costs in the form of either fewer workers or reduced hours for those workers or benefits.
Let's look at an example of that.
Devin Yaron was happy to get a raise when Seattle's minimum wage went up to $11 an hour at the beginning of the month.
I definitely recognize that having more money is important.
Unfortunately, he'll only enjoy that bigger paycheck for a few more months. In August, his boss is shutting down Z Pizza, putting him and his 11 coworkers out of work.
Fortunately, she keeps us in the loop and didn't just tell us last minute.
She also explained what she did to try to keep her business open before she felt she had to close it.
I've cut hours since April 1st. I've taken them myself because I don't pay myself. I've also raised my prices a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to do it.
But is this typical?
We are certainly seeing impacts from the higher minimum wage. We have one company who moved 100 of their lowest skilled manufacturing jobs to Nevada.
The union would say, we're cherry picking these examples. The restaurant that closes, others open. You can always, and actually to quote them, the advocate for the higher minimum wage says, restaurants are opening and closing all the time.
The job growth in the industry with the most minimum wage workers, that would be the restaurant industry, has ground to almost a halt. The rest of the state has had about a 7% increase in job growth. Seattle, on the other hand, less than 1%.
One group said 1,000 jobs have been lost, and that was between April and May, but Forbes says there was a gain of 1,000 between May and June and another 1,000 between September and October. So maybe people adjust and everything's wonderful.
But again, over the past 5 years, that average increase has been in the 3,500 to 4,000 range. So when you look at that difference, we're not talking about maybe jobs lost, but perhaps jobs that are no longer being created.
Unions lately have been saying, exempt us. They push for the law. What's that about? And that's happened in Washington, too.
Yeah, that's happened in Washington. And actually, that's been, and not just in Washington, it's in about half a dozen cities around the nation. And labor unions have spent millions, tens of millions of dollars, hired PR firms to figure out what message works with people to support a higher, $15 an hour living wage. And then what they do is they go in and say, but you need to exempt us because we need the freedom to negotiate. You can't hold us to such a high wage because then we might have to reduce our health benefits or something like that. So we need the freedom to negotiate. Really,
and aren't they embarrassed at the double standard?
Apparently not. I'm not sure if there's much that actually embarrasses labor unions and their double standards.